Okay, well, welcome to another episode of the Strong Families podcast. It's just an opportunity, I guess, for us to learn from people, share stories, experience, what are the highs, what are the lows, what are the in-betweens of family life. And so today on the podcast, we have my friend Sherrie Brook. And she is just a wealth of wisdom. You've been there before, you've got your own kids, and you're also a counsellor.
Yep.
And so I guess, we're going to be talking about a lot of things today, but one thing we're going to hit on specifically is resilience and just what does that mean and how can we foster it in our families.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, we just like to start by asking people to just give us a little snapshot of your family,
Sure.
who you are, what you're like, that kind of thing.
Okay, well, we are actually, my husband and I are classified as empty nesters.
Okay.
So we're at that stage in life where we have the house cleaned and stays clean.
Yep.
So when you leave and you come back, it's the same.
That must be amazing.
It is amazing.
I am looking forward to that stage. No, actually, no. I'm not wishing away these years, but the clean house would be nice.
The clean house is great.
Yeah.
So we have 3 adult sons, 2 of which are married, and 2 beautiful daughter-in-laws. So both of our married sons have children. So our eldest son has a boy who's just turned 9 and a little girl who's just turned 4. And our other married son has just a little 1-year-old girl.
Oh,
so
he's still fresh.
yeah, and so our middle son is not married.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they close in age, your sons? Were they?
6 years apart for the... Now let me start again. So the first 2 are 3 years apart, and then we had our last son 6 years later.
Oh, okay. So a little bit spread out.
A little bit of a gap.
Yeah.
Which was nice, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just would have been a different dynamic, I guess, having the
was.
new baby and the other kids being
Yeah.
that little bit older.
Yeah.
You would have been well out of like the toilet training
Totally.
phase and everything like that.
But it was good. It was lovely to watch.
Yeah.
It was lovely to see them looking after their little brother, and obviously as the years go on, that age gap shrinks.
Yeah, once they're adults, do you
Yep.
find that you don't really notice the
Totally.
difference? Were there any ages that it was a bit hard having that age gap? Like when the older ones were kind of teenagers and the younger ones still wanted to like be their friend, but they were...
Not really,
No, that
because
wasn't a hard one.
our youngest one is very social.
Okay.
So he had lots of friends.
Right.
And, so no, we didn't really have that too much.
Great.
And it was nice to just be able to spend some time with him one-on-one as well.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
It was good.
Did you find sometimes you were like, okay, we'll do something kind of with the older boys, something specific for them, and then other times we'll do something with the younger one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually, it sort of amalgamated quite naturally as we went. If we go away as a family, he was still quite young, but it wasn't too bad at all. It just flowed. We had one particular holiday which was hilarious, where we went to camping,
Yeah.
and it poured rain. And all we
It's the
had,
worst
all we
thing
had, all we had for 3 boys, and all we had for entertainment was a mouth organ.
Oh.
So we all took turns
That'd be so
on the
loud.
mouth organ.
Yeah.
And the youngest one just wanted to hog the mouth organ.
Oh,
and
and like make it just kind of shriek.
so we've got
as
some
well.
funny video of what happened that probably we can't speak about. But
Isn't it funny how though, like in the moment you'd be like, oh, this is the worst thing,
Yeah.
like raining,
Exactly,
camping, mouth organ.
exactly.
But now you probably look back and go,
it's one of our most...
what a cool
Yeah,
family
it
memory.
is,
Like
totally.
remember the time.
100%,
Like,
yeah.
That kind of gives me hope for like, when things maybe don't go to plan or
That's
seem a
right.
bit like, chaotic. It's like, oh, this might be a moment that I look back on and think, oh, those were the days.
It was. I just remember just laughing so much.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
That's so cool. Now, obviously, I've got little kids. I'm not there yet. I'm not an empty nester. But
Far from it.
far from it. I know we've got a lot of years to go before we get to that stage. But yeah, what do you think is the best part of having adult kids? What's nice about that phase of life?
Look, I think for me anyway, and I guess everyone's different, but for me, I really really love having adult children because, one, you don't have to discipline them anymore. That's great.
Do you still want to though? Like, or
Sometimes.
do you find you just let go of that and go, I can just release that now? Or
Oh, look, you just take it with a grain of salt, really.
Yeah.
But no, it's just so lovely to sit down with adult company and just be able to just talk, have fun,
Yep.
and laugh at each other. You know.
Yeah.
We're a family that really does laugh at each other. So
I think that's a healthy family.
pay out on
really.
each other all the time.
All in good fun.
All in good fun, yeah.
Did you find with boys it went too far often? Like, did they like rough and tumble fighting or
Yeah.
like pay out on each other too much? Or
Yes, there were times, especially as the boys got older and the testosterone kicked in.
right, it
Yeah.
was a bit much,
It was
and
a
you're
bit
like,
much.
all right, you
Yeah,
got to rein it
yeah.
in now. Like, that's no longer. It's
No.
not funny anymore.
And my background is I have a sister, and there was just my sister and I. So the thought of having 3 boys was just, no, that's not going to happen to me. What do I
Never
do with
say
3
never,
boys?
Sherrie.
So I guess the things that I really noticed as a difference was just the physical side of
Right,
things. Like,
yeah.
they're so physical. They don't walk down a corridor. They use their arms and their legs, and they spider down the hallway. There's no
Yeah.
walking involved.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
sliding down banister rails, and
Yeah.
just everything is so
Yeah.
physical.
And
lots
you
of
kind of have
food.
to let them
Yeah.
do that. Hey,
Oh,
Like,
totally.
you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
teach them
Yeah.
to not be physical.
No.
Yeah.
And I guess probably looking back now, that's probably something I'll probably be a bit more relaxed on.
Okay.
Is not being so stressed that they are
Gonna hurt each other.
sliding down the
or-
banister rail, or
Right. You
jumping
reckon
off,
you'd be more.
jumping off the balcony into the pool. It's just a natural thing to do, Mum. Like,
Yeah.
what are you stressed about?
Funny story with that, because I grew up with 3 sisters. So
Okay.
same thing, like I'm sure we had our moments, but it wasn't physical altercations, and we got along pretty well in general. Anyway, it was like a very girly household.
Girly.
And we grew up in a 2-story house that had a pool out the back and like a back veranda. And anytime, like as we kind of got in, teenage years, anytime we had a guy friend over, they'd go out the back deck, and first thing would be like, have you ever jumped into the pool?
I know.
And we'd all look at each other like, no, like, no, you whack your head on the roof and you won't be able to make it far enough. You'll get hurt. Like, we would have never considered doing that.
No.
And we did, we were active kids, right? But just that kind of risk.
Yes,
Like,
I
no
know.
way would we have done that.
Funny story.
Yeah.
My youngest son, so the 2 boys, the older 2 had left home, and he was still at home. And one school holiday, he decided that he was going to help Mum jump off the balcony into the pool. And
Helped you?
I,
Like, you did
I'm
it.
going to step up. I am going to do this. So I get over the balcony, over the banister rails, and then I freeze.
Yeah, I would never do
And
that.
he is in the pool going, Mum, come on, Mum, I'm here, Mum, just jump. And in the end, he had to get out of the
You
pool,
didn't do
come
it?
back up the
Help you
steps,
back over.
get me back over. It was an epic fail,
Oh,
epic
well,
fail.
You tried to be a
I did.
fun mum.
I did
No,
try.
I think that's the type of thing where you go, son, that's a boy thing, that's a you
just
thing.
never gonna
That is
happen.
I'm not going to jump off
Yeah.
this balcony. What a cool memory for them
Oh.
if you had actually done it, though. They would have never
know.
stopped talking about it.
The riskiest thing I've ever done in my life in that regard is at a year 8 camp when I was at school as an adult, so taking the kids to a camp, and we have to climb to the top of a telegraph pole,
Oh, yeah.
which is actually quite high when you get to the very top.
Yeah.
And then you have to jump off and hit the ball, right?
Yep, I've seen a campsite
And
like
I'm just
that.
like, I am going to do this. And I did.
Mm.
And I was so so proud of myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. I
That's
have been
probably
to a
the
camp
bravest
with
thing I've ever done.
a pole like that, and
Yeah.
I did not do it.
No,
So
well, there you
you're
go.
braver than I. I am not a fan of heights. All right. Well, looking back, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you said that you would probably let the boys,
Do a
be a
bit
bit more
more.
risky. Is there anything else that you would have done differently? Do you think, or is it hard to really, I guess, judge in retrospect?
I think that you do your best. in whatever season you're up to. And I don't think any of us could stand at, the other end of parenting and say, you know what, there's nothing I would change. I did it all perfectly or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there were some things that I think are really gold, like, for instance, particularly with boys that don't necessarily talk a lot. They grunt.
Okay.
So I think you really have to catch the moments with boys.
Yeah.
Like when you're probably tired and you're walking out of their bedroom thinking that's the end of the day, and he goes, "Hey, Mum, you must turn around, sit on the bed and talk."
Right, because that's your moment.
That's your moment.
Your little window.
Yeah, you have to grab those moments. They're gold.
That's so cool. Alrighty, well, you are a counsellor, like we talked about, and you've worked in a whole different variety of settings. You worked in schools, you in private practice now. So I guess what drives you to do that work? Why did you choose to do that? Is it just your nature, or?
Yeah, look, I think, even from a young age, I just had people come to me and want to talk to me. And I actually felt that it was quite a natural thing. And quite often after we talked, they would say to me, "Oh, that really helped." So that was one side of it. The other side of it was I had a bit of a struggle myself at school because I'm physically challenged.
For people who don't know you,
you're
not missing a leg or anything. You are very short.
I'm very short.
Petite stature.
So of course you know that if you're at all different at school,
so
at all different, I was the one that always got to hold the blackboard at the front of the, the annual photo. There I was in the front holding the blackboard.
Okay, they always put the littlest one there, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and look, even though I can sort of laugh about it now, growing up, it was tough.
Right.
I used to I can remember going to bed crying, saying, "Please, can I wake up in the morning a bit taller?"
Yeah. So
I felt a lot of difference. And I guess probably a lot of empathy for kids that didn't actually fit in. And I for myself, I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was someone that I could talk to, not my parents, but someone I could talk to about how I was really feeling that would maybe help. Yeah. So I guess I had a lot of empathy for kids that were struggling.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to make a difference for them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. And like I said, we were talking about resilience. Oh, no, sorry, I've skipped ahead. Okay. First, I wanted to ask, do you notice that the challenges facing families have been changing in recent years? Obviously, from when you had your children and then watching, obviously, trends and what's happened now that you are talking with children, talking with families all the time. Yeah. Are the challenges different these days, or are they essentially the same challenges that people have just always been going through?
Yeah. Look, I think the pace of life has put a lot of pressure on parents.
Okay. Yeah.
And at the same time, it's sort of like a perfect storm because academically there's been a real shift.
Oh, really?
In just expectations.
Okay.
Across, what you want your students to achieve. Like when I was growing up, not many people went to uni.
Okay.
Whereas these days, not many people don't go to uni.
Just the expectation.
Just the expectation.
Of course you would finish high school. Of course you would reach this level of academic.
Yeah. So you got a lot more expectation on family, on academic grades. So I think that puts pressure all around. And of course the other thing is that a lot of parents are time poor. So they're trying to fit everything in.
Right.
And
so kind of like the double income thing, has that changed a lot? There's not as many families that are just one income other parent at home. It's like, both parents working. Yeah. So everything's just busier. Yeah. Is that it?
And I think also that, if you've got both parents working, they're both really tired.
Okay. Yeah.
And parenting doesn't give you a break.
And you definitely don't parent your best when you're tired.
You do not.
I've learnt.
Yeah.
I've really noticed that. Okay, and yes, we are going to talk resilience today. And so we have all these challenges, you know, there are all these pressures that we recognise, we can see them.
Yeah.
How do you define resilience? And can you talk us through some practical things we can do to build resilience, firstly in our children?
Yeah. Well, basically resilience in a nutshell is the ability to bounce back from difficult or stressful circumstances.
Yeah.
So if you think of a bungee jumper, that sort of like rubber band thing, that's a good way to think about resilience.
And that would be a stressful circumstance for me, bungee jumping.
And you know I'm never going to do that.
Right, but okay, so you bounce back.
Yeah, bounce back.
Yeah.
And that ability to bounce back. So resilience is working on yourself through all seasons. So sometimes we think of, you've got to build resilience in our children, but no, it's all the way. Because we're faced
it's not
with
just
different...
something you build when they're 4.
No,
it's
that's
like
right.
every age is
Every
they're going
age.
to need to be resilient.
Yep.
Yeah.
That they are. And so there's different challenges across different developmental stages in their life.
Yeah.
So it can look a little bit different depending on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So one of the obviously there's a plethora of research and you can go online and do so much, but there was a couple of resources that I found were really quite helpful. One is a book that was put out by Dr. Linda Graham, and it was called Bouncing Back. And she makes a reference to Dan Siegel's work, who works in positive psychology field. And his research, identified what they call the window of tolerance. So that's a term that describes the zone of arousal in which a person is able to function more effectively. So typically, when we're in that window, we can readily receive, process and integrate information and otherwise respond in everyday life situations really well.
Right, so that's the window you want to be in.
That's the window you want to be in.
Operating in that somehow.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the brain functions really well, and the person is likely to be able to reflect, think rationally and make really good decisions calmly and without being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So in her book, in Linda's book, she refers to the neurotransmitter of the calm and connect, which we're talking about oxytocin here.
Okay, yeah. I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she explains that oxytocin is the brain's direct, immediate antidote to stress hormone, cortisol,
Okay.
and helps like combat that. So if we can release the oxytocin, we're going to lower the release of cortisol.
Right, because I knew that like oxytocin, it's the
Cuddle hormone.
the love hormone.
Yeah, the love hormone.
But I kind of just thought, it's just the good hormone.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily think that it's like the antidote to stress.
It helps. Yeah.
It helps
with
manage
stress, yeah.
the cortisol.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So you're right. So oxytocin's also associated with trust, sexual arousal, and relationship building. So it's like that connection, that glue. And as you say, it's sometimes referred to as the love hormone or the cuddle chemical.
Okay, cuddle chemical.
Very
I haven't heard
nice.
that one.
Yeah,
That's
cuddle
cute.
chemical.
Yeah.
So fun fact, it's been proven that when you hug somebody, and we learn this, we teach this in marriage situations, if you hug someone for at least 6 seconds,
Yeah.
your body releases both serotonin and oxytocin. And after a 10-second hug, that release becomes a chemical which floods your brain a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so that can really give you that lovely sense of well-being. So if you can get into the habit of having a
Regular
hug,
hugs.
before he's running out the door saying, I've got to go, you can stand there and count to 6. And if you're lucky, 10.
Yeah.
And then maybe that will help your morning
Yeah.
and his.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And so that's the same with our kids as well, obviously, not just
Definitely.
in marriage, but
Oh, absolutely.
with our kids.
So
is it just when they are like heightened and like emotional and they're going through things, or is it like we're meant to regularly hug our children so that they're getting that almost like preventatively?
I think touch is really important.
Okay.
For me, I liked to touch my children and I liked to tickle their backs. Mm-hmm. Much to my daughter-in-law's disapproval. Mm-hmm. I remember one of my daughter-in-laws said, "What have you done? Every time we sit down, he wants me to tickle his back."
You've trained him that's how he feels loved. I don't want to do that.
So the other thing is, you know, thinking to yourself, well, like, if I'm stressed, I can't hug someone. What can I do? But you can actually self-soothe by even touching your own arm. Right. And just, you know, if you're in a situation that's really stressful, you can actually just rub your arm. Okay. And whoever you're talking to doesn't even know what you're doing. Right. And that can actually soothe you. Mm-hmm. You can do other things like listen to music, get a massage if you're really stressed, tell someone how much you care, and spend time with friends. So there's lots of different things. But I guess probably overall, when we think about that window of tolerance, it's like any form of tolerance, we've got capacity to grow that. Okay. So when it comes to developmental stages with children, you can see where your child's tolerance level is. Okay. Sometimes it's
like, so some kids have a really small window.
They do.
And other kids have like a bit of a bigger window.
Yeah, that's right.
But our job is to try and make that...
Yeah, understand where that window is bigger, and just try and just those little increments of stretching them out. And helping them to understand that they don't have to have a meltdown. And just that for all of us, just our own self-awareness of where our window of tolerance is. And just knowing where those red flags are coming in and going, uh-oh. And being self-compassionate, you know. It's no judgment. This is my window, and I'd like to get a little bit stronger.
Right. And can it be quite different for different people? Like, could you have one child that you just need to give them a hug, you need to really, you know, they might be really physical and they need that, but then there's another child that their resilience is that they need, I don't know, they need to get away from people and they need to like have some time alone.
Definitely.
Is it kind of like you've got to figure out what is going to help your child?
Yeah, and I think that we do, as mums and dads, we do grow to understand what our kids need. And isn't it amazing how every single child you have is different?
Totally.
It's amazing.
Totally different.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It's very interesting, but also like sometimes I wish they were a little bit more cookie cutter. It would make the job so much easier.
Oh yeah, that's right. You need a cuddle and you need to be fed. And
yeah, that's it. I just feel like it's always just trying to manage like who needs what. And,
yes.
Yeah. Cool. Now, my next question is, if we want as parents to protect our kids from challenges, but how do we... I know theoretically that I need to let my kids go through hard things so that they can become independent and competent and have autonomy and get resilient. Because I imagine you don't get resilient if you never go through anything hard. No. So, like, do you have any advice for parents? How do we let our kids go through hard things?
Yeah. Well, I think that you do help them with that window of tolerance, and rather than jumping in and rescuing them, just being aware that you're actually trying to develop them to cope with life. Yeah. Okay. And you're not going to be there every day. Right. And so we're really trying to build this autonomy inside of them that they're going to cope. So obviously along their developmental stages, age appropriate, you try and like let the rope out. And then sometimes you have to pull it in, and it's that tension of in and out, but helping them to see that you believe that they can do it is really...
Like, I'm not anxious.
That's
I believe you can do it.
Exactly.
You're competent, you're brave, you're capable.
Correct. Okay. So then that brings us to you as a parent modelling that resilience as much as you can. Okay. And also with your communication, really being aware of your verbal, what you're saying to your child, and your non-verbal. So if you're saying to your child, you can really do it, but you've got fear written all over your face.
Jumping in
guess
helicopter.
Guess what one they're reading.
Okay.
Because we know that nonverbal communication is actually stronger than verbal.
Right.
So the two have to be congruent. The message has to be connected and strong so that they get it. But teaching them that and then letting them see that they can do it. Mm-hmm. And then go, see, you could do that.
Yeah.
And most of the time they just rap that they did.
Yeah. Or if they fail, I guess it's like, but it was okay. You can
that's
try
right.
again.
Totally
kind of
okay.
Thing.
Yeah.
It's not, didn't kill you.
That's right.
You'll be all right. You'll get another chance to, try that
that's right.
skill or that whatever you put yourself out there to do. You can do it again. Or
and allowing them to be okay with making mistakes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's no failures. We just try again.
Right. I guess that's like managing our expectations, that they don't feel like they've disappointed us if they fail or something like that. Like,
for sure.
We're not putting all this pressure on. Like, we talk about outside pressures.
Yeah.
But, parents we can put pressure on too because we want them to succeed.
Yes.
So, not making them feel like, failure is the worst thing that can ever happen. Hard for us perfectionists to deal with.
Oh, yes.
All right, we're Christians. We go to church. That's how we know each other.
That's right.
I'm here at church. And I guess I just wanted to ask you, how do you, as a counsellor, feel that faith in Jesus impacts resilience? How does it help? Help us become more resilient? Or are there any Bible verses that you go to when you think about resilience?
Well, I think when we think about resilience, we usually are going to use CBT or cognitive behavioural therapy with people that are struggling with their thoughts and things like that, because that's the gold star. And when I went to uni as a mature age student and they started talking about cognitive behavioural therapy, I thought, what? That's been in the Bible forever.
There's nothing new under the sun.
There is nothing new here. Yeah. You guys just need to read your Bibles. No, so CBT is based on the principle that our thoughts have an impact on our emotions, which then impact our behaviour. So if you see it as like a cyclic thing, and the key, of course, is if you can arrest that first thought or challenge a negative emotion or irrational thought, then you can overcome that negativity, and that in turn helps you to conquer that negative emotion.
Right.
So you flip it. So so Bible verse, Proverbs 23:7, which says, "As a man thinks, so he is." I think Joyce Meyer's got a classic. Where the mind goes, the man follows. That's just such a classic, and it's so true. And there's so much in the Word about our thoughts.
Yeah,
taking captive every thought, every high thing that exalts itself against God's Word. Because He created us. Yeah. And He knows how we tick.
Yeah. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
Like that really God has the key to all these things.
He does, absolutely.
Yeah, and we just live His way.
Yeah, so when it comes to resilience, the Bible's really helpful in helping us to stay strong, be bold. I'm with you. Yeah. So He always is encouraging us, always lifting us up, never putting us down. So
kind of like that parent,
I'm
not anxious.
I'm here for you.
You can do this. I believe in you.
Yeah,
that's so
it.
great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we like to wrap up our podcast each week by just asking, what is your parenting hack? So that could be just something you did as a parent, or like a routine you had, or something you did that just made life easier in your family. So what's that?
Well, look, I think I'd have to classically say that because of the awareness that I have around mental health, my hacks, I've got two hacks. One is gratitude. Yeah. And so with gratitude, we know that is such a biggie for changing mood like that. Yeah. Very, very helpful. So if I'm challenged, if I'm feeling sad or things are really, I think to myself, okay, let's go with gratitude. And look, there's so much research. Again, you pick up a book on gratitude and you go, hey, This has been in the Bible forever.
Yeah, that's
Give
right.
thanks with a grateful heart. It's like
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but you do actually notice if you stop for a minute and think, okay, what can I be grateful for right now in this moment? It's not long before you actually feel your brain turn around and your heart shift
Yeah.
and go, you know what? It's not that bad. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to get through this, you know.
Cool.
Or I'm so grateful that they're there, or whatever. There's always something to be grateful for. Even if it's something like, you know what? I'm healthy. I can see. I can hear. You know, how many people are struggling
With those things.
with
Yeah.
those things? So
Yeah.
really
always
digging
find
deep
something.
and then teaching your children to do it.
Right. Sit around the table.
Because-
talk about what you're grateful for. Kind of thing.
Or even in a natural situation, they start whinging, because whinging is something that we really have to be on, because it's so negative for us
Right.
internally. Just being able to help those kids just change their perspective.
Right.
Okay, you're feeling like that.
Rewire
Yeah.
the brain. When you feel
Rewire
that
the
way,
brain. Yep.
what's something you can be grateful
So
for?
gratitude.
Cool. And what's the
is,
next one?
The next one is humour.
Oh, I love it.
Humour just saves the day,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
No.
You just got to laugh.
Just joke.
Just laugh.
Right.
You know,
Even if it's gross boy jokes.
even if it's gross.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, we know about boys, don't we?
Yeah.
We learnt
so
the hard
good.
way.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sherrie.
You're
It's been just
welcome.
such a pleasure to talk to you and just get to know a bit more of your parenting journey, but also, you know, glean from all your wisdom of,
thank you.
you know, many years of helping people with their mental health and
love to help
helping their
people.
families
Yeah.
be healthier and stronger. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
for
Thanks,
coming
Joe.
on.
Bye.